Hello and welcome to workshop number 3, the notebook, the display, and the presentation. I'm so glad you're watching this video because I think it'll give you some valuable tips on how to bring it all together and be completely prepared for the big day. So thank you for watching. I'm very happy that you are. Now, the first thing I'd like to recommend is taking a good look at the wiki. The Science Fair wiki has many valuable resources. It has sample digital display boards. It has sample traditional displays. It has the scoring rubrics the judges will use. It also contains something very important, which is called the Science Fair Resource Materials Guide. The cover looks like this. This is a 50 or 60 page document that tells you exactly, step by step, how to do the entire Science Fair project. So you are assigned on day 1 of packet 1 to look at tip 1 and 2 in the Science Fair Resource Materials and to select your topic. And ever since then, you've been completing little by little to get to this point. So hopefully you're on about tip 8 right now, that your experiment is complete and now you're getting ready to put the rest together. So again, it's called the Science Fair Resource Materials Guide. Looks like this. And it's going to be very important that you follow it at this point on. So be sure that you have a copy of that. Now, what does your child need to bring with them on the big day? So the first thing they need to bring with them is their daily log. Their daily log, well, they should have been working on it daily, or at least every time that they've been working on their Science Fair project. So in this will be their raw data. In this will be their rough drafts. So this is a piece that's pretty important that the judge will be looking for. Once they wrote in here, they were told in the tip pages to then type it and save it on their desktop. So they should have written their rough draft hypothesis in here and then typed it and saved it. They should have written their data, raw data in here, and then they can create a nicer looking data table and graph using the computer. So this is the rough draft. Once it gets typed and assembled, it becomes the notebook, which might look like this. So the notebook the judge will look at, and then I collect these at the end of the science fair and I turn them into the teachers or ESs for them to grade. So this is quite an important part and piece of the science fair. Now I know it seems overwhelming. This one is over 40 pages long, but you've already been working on it. You've already been doing it little by little and saving pieces of it, and so now it's time to put it all together. So how do you know what goes in this notebook? Well, there's no guessing at all. Do you remember when I mentioned the Science Fair resource materials? Looks like this. Well, inside of there, if you turn to tip 9, it's on putting the notebook together. Looks like that. So tip 9 is the notebook, and it tells you exactly what to put in it. So it begins with title page, table of contents, abstract, and so forth. So there's no guessing, there's no confusion. Turn to tip 9 in the Science Fair Resource Materials Guide, and it tells you exactly how to put the notebook together. Now, tip 10 is on how to do a traditional display, much like the one behind me. So basically what you're doing is you take this, it's already typed, and then you take out pieces of it, enlarge it, and put it on a board. Now, our judges are not going to be too happy to see this exactly printed, size 12 times New Roman, because it's awfully small for a display. So in tip 10, you will receive several tips. It's actually a 2-page long tip. First, it'll tell you exactly what goes on the board. So again, there's no guessing at all. It'll tell you the pieces the judges will be looking for. And it also gives you tips in terms of using color, in terms of enlarging it, using nice bold titles so we can tell what we're looking at, and also kind of the flow. Don't put conclusion on the top because that's where our eyes go first. So that probably should be your problem up there, and conclusion would be toward the bottom. So tip 10 gives you some valuable information on how to put your board together. One tip I have, and I don't know if it's in my document, so this is kind of the secret tip, is to use a thicker paper. My son has done a couple of science fair projects. He was a student here at Coastal, and we found that using a thicker paper really helped stick everything on, and it made the colors just brighter. So I would definitely recommend, as a secret tip, is to use a thicker paper. It helps it stick, and it just makes it more colorful and attractive. Now, tip 11 in the Science Fair Resource Materials Guide tells you how to make a digital display. Now, a digital display is new to Coastal, so I do not have any Coastal examples. I will after this year. So what I've done is I've accumulated a few examples from other schools. So if you look on a wiki, you'll see Workshop 3 support materials. So click on that, and there are 5 or 6 digital displays that I found, video and PowerPoint, for you to go ahead and view. And if you'd like to, if you notice there were scoring rubrics, those are the actual rubrics the judges will be using. So go ahead and print rubric number 3, that's the one for digital displays, and grade some of those displays I have posted on my wiki. It'll give your child great experience on what to look for. Now, speaking of those scoring rubrics, your judge is grading quite a few different components, but again, it's not a surprise. You can see what we're looking for. Scoring rubric number 1 is for every student. No matter what kind of display you do, every student will be graded using scoring rubric 1. Scoring rubric 1 includes their presentation. Does your child make eye contact? Are they pleasant? Are they knowledgeable on the scientific method? Do they know about their own project? How's their notebook assembled? Do they have all the pieces, and so forth? So that's scoring rubric number 1. Now, scoring rubric number 2 will be used for students who are doing a traditional board like the ones behind me. And then scoring rubric 3 is for digital boards. So go ahead and print those and have your child do a couple of mock presentations to you, a neighbor, a friend, a sibling, and have them score their project. It'll be a wonderful experience for your child to actually be scored using the real rubrics our judges will be using. So those are available for you on this wiki, scoring rubric 1, 2, and 3. Now, in terms of presentation, that's tip 12 in the Science Fair resource materials. Now, I want to just comfort students. I know that this is a big deal, that many students have not spoken to a stranger before quite like this, or done a public speaking experience. Our judges are all parents. We're all friendly. I've trained them all, and they know that you'll be nervous. So don't feel like you have to have the whole thing memorized. However, I would recommend you try. Practice, practice, practice at home, saying your speech. Now, what are you talking about exactly? You're talking about your entire project from start to finish. You're going to share the scientific method. Now, what's the scientific method? Well, you actually already know it because you've been doing it for the last few months. You have a problem or a question. You did some research. That was the review of literature. You made a hypothesis. You conducted an experiment. Your experiment had to be a fair test experiment. You had a variable you changed, that's the independent variable. You had a variable you measured, which is the dependent variable, and you did it over and over again, and those were your trials. But you controlled some aspects of your experiment, so you didn't change everything. You kept certain things consistent between each trial, and those are called controls. Your judge will expect you to know that. So we have your problem, your research, your hypothesis, your experiment. Then you collected data. Now, we will no longer accept boards that have hand-drawn graphs or data tables. We expect your child by this time to be pretty technologically savvy and be able to create a computer-generated data table and graph. In the Science Fair Resource Materials Guide, this one, it recommends a program called, or a website called Create a Graph. Very easy to use. Your child will find it very helpful in making a nice looking graph. So it's called Create a Graph, and the link is actually in that packet of materials. So back to the scientific method. A problem, research, hypothesis, experiment, data, which is presented in a computer-generated graph. Then your child's going to analyze that data. That's called the conclusion. And then the 7th step of the scientific method is recommendations. Now this part is where your child recommends what they would do differently if they could do it again. It would be where they recommend the next step. What would they do if they were to take this experiment a step further? So that's the recommendation. So those 7 steps are described in the Science Fair resource materials. They're going to be on your board, they're going to be on your digital display, they're going to be in your notebook, and those are the 7 steps our judge will be listening for. Now, if your child is nervous and they forget to mention their hypothesis or they forget to mention their recommendations, our judge knows to prompt them, and they can still get a good grade if they're prompted. However, if your child just flat out doesn't know, then they'll be marked down. So be sure that you look through the Science Fair resource materials, you talk with your child about their experiment, and if you're still confused or not really sure if you know which is the variable or what's the control, please contact me. I'm available on Edmodo. I'm available via email, and I'll meet with your family one-on-one and help you through it. So I'm very available. Read through the science fair resource materials if you have any questions. So you may use note cards. That's perfectly fine. You can glance down at them, but we hope that your child makes some eye contact. We hope that your child dresses for success. They have worked so hard on this project. So I hope they look like they're proud of themselves and that they carry themselves, and they just feel real positive and strong if they're dressed that way. And we expect it to be a great experience. We really do. And please contact me if you have any questions. What I just talked about is on the agenda from the workshop, and I've included this PDF as well. Looks like this. So if you have questions on what tip was that she was talking about, or what website, those are on the agenda from my workshop. So go ahead and take a look at that. So the scoring rubrics are there, sample digital displays are there, lots of resources, the science fair resource materials, and then of course I am available to help you out every step of the way. So please contact me. So good luck, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your projects and seeing you shine.